Alright, 5-9 crew, so today I'm back here, I'm with Gacha Talks, and we're going to talk about something that I'm actually kind of surprised that is still relevant, considering we're now in January, and that is that, at least in the UK, a company called Game, who is one of the bigger retailers for console and gaming, basically they are the UK equivalent of GameStop. They released a run of PlayStation 5 consoles, and within minutes they were snapped up with over 2,000 of them being secured by scalpers using something called the Carnage bot. Not 100% sure what the Carnage bot is, but basically it went in and it snapped up all of these consoles. Now, before we talk about the actual article itself, Gacha, are you surprised that in January, after all the Christmas hype has died down, that we are still at a point where scalpers are actually snapping up every single PlayStation 5 that becomes available?
Yes and no. Yes, definitely, because during January, this is usually the month where we're all kind of broke after Christmas and the holidays. And no, because this is probably the best time to scalp, because nobody's buying PS5s right now, because again, we're all pretty much broke after buying presents for the family. Most retail stores are pretty dead this month, so I would say it kind of makes sense that they're doing it now. Do I think it's right? No, absolutely not, because this is definitely not cool. I mean, 2,000's a lot, dude.
Yeah, as I mean,
that's a lot.
I'll just read the first little part of this article. By the way, shout out to Tech Radar for this article. I have seen a lot of this stuff on social media myself, but having it compiled in the one place just makes life a lot easier, so shout out to Tech Radar. So basically, PS5 stock reappeared briefly at Game yesterday, January 19th, but predictably sold out in a matter of minutes. The demand for the PS5 continues to be extremely high. It appears that a group of scalpers have made things a lot more difficult for those searching for where to buy a PS5. As spotted on social media, an account by the name of Carnage Bot bragged that his users had managed to secure over 2,000 checkouts at Game. The account was soon targeted by a wave of angry consumers, which led to it locking its profile. Now, I've actually in the past I've collected things like Funko Pops and stuff like that, and these little groups do exist where they tell you go now, go quick, go grab it, right? And it is pretty organised, but these guys seem to have a bot that's helping them actually get the stuff done. Now in the UK,
which is
in the UK, it may be slightly different from how America is right now with the whole COVID situation. We are in a full lockdown. The schools are closed, so there's a lot of parents at home who have kids. They're struggling for ways to entertain them, and contrary to what you just said, I actually think demand in the UK would be quite high to actually buy a PlayStation 5 just now from consumers, because parents are looking for ways to keep their kids entertained. And as a parent, currently, right now, if you could just go and play your PlayStation 5 and give me peace, you would probably fork out money on your credit card or whatever just to get that peace and quiet, because times are tough at the moment. So to me, I just feel like what these scalpers are doing right now, I think scalping in general is kind of immoral, but in the current climate, it just seems so much worse to me. I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel quite strong about it, that it's bad. I mean, plain and simple, it's bad. Gacha, have you ever bought anything from a scalper before? Have you ever been in a position where you have to buy something over the marketplace?
Yeah. There was a time period where I used to collect amiibos, and unfortunately there was a couple times when I'd have to buy $30-$40 amiibos, like Icarus, or time like Marth was a very, very high dollar one that was like $50 for a long time. Even the Golden Mario. So I have definitely dealt with it, and it's unfortunate. But here's the thing too, the PS5s at some point are going to be stocked, so like you're going to be able to get it literally anywhere that you walk into. So I see where these, why they're doing it, but it's still very not cool, man. It's unfortunate. It definitely sounds like it's different in the UK. Over here in the States, I mean, I could tell you from my personal job, besides when the stimulus checks went out, we've been dead, dude. Like, we have had nobody buying any type of electronics. It's just kind of like standard food stuff for the most part. So over here might be a bit different, but that's pretty crazy. I didn't know, you guys in the UK were still popping off right now.
Oh yeah, we're still in full lockdown. People need to find ways to kind of entertain themselves. Now, one of the things that I've seen is people justifying why they're doing this, okay? It's not on this article, it's on another article, but I do remember what was said. Basically, even though the post has been locked where the guys were bragging about getting the scalped PS5s, some of the replies to it from people who managed to secure them are still viewable on Twitter. And the general thing that seems to be said is people are blaming the COVID for why they're doing it. They're saying things like, I lost my job, I've got bills to pay, so the only way I could pay my bills was to buy some of these PS5s to make a profit on them. Now, personally, I'm going to call BS on that right away, because the way I see it is these people are trying to justify COVID as a reason for basically ripping people off, charging people twice the market value to pay their bills. But to me, it doesn't wash, because the people they're selling them to have to suffer the same things that they have to suffer. They are suffering lockdown, they are suffering money being tighter. So for them to pay their bills, they're expecting someone else to pay twice the value that something's worth, you know. We're kind of all in this together. So to me, you can't really justify doing something like this on the guise of, oh, it's COVID, I need money, so COVID's put me in a position where I don't have as much money and I need to make it somewhere else. Well, yeah, great, we're all in the same boat. COVID's made money tighter for everyone, so you can't really justify you making money off of taking that money from someone else who doesn't have as much disposable income because of the exact same thing you're using as an excuse to rip them off, essentially. Do you think that's a good enough reason to be doing this, Gacha? I mean, do you think there's any good reason to be a wholesale scalper? I can understand that somebody maybe wins a PS5 in a competition, they've got two of them, and then maybe they sell it for a little bit more. That is what it is, but there's a difference between that and someone specifically going out their way to snap this stock up before anyone else has got a chance to get it. I just don't feel the two of them are the same. What's your opinion on that, Gacha?
No, I don't think in any situation it's okay to ever scalp anything, because again, I completely understand where we are in the terms of the world, but I still think there's plenty of ways of making money besides, overcharging something. Over here in the States, a PS5 is what, like $300, $400, $500, on that ballpark, and then someone selling that, it for $1,000, where it's something. I just don't think that's right, man. Unfortunately, I do understand that we have to make money somehow, but I don't believe this is the way of doing that. There's so many kids out there that still want PS5s. There's so many people still looking for this, and for parents to have to spend triple, quadruple for something that should have never been that intended price, it's pretty crazy. It's not like when you look at Pokemon cards, for example, right? Like obviously, like Charizards and stuff like that are very valuable. These PS5s in a couple months are going to be everywhere. So really, it's just a complete waste of money to drop that right now. And of course, and that's what kind of like bothers me. It's like, this is like PS5s are going to lose value over time. So these guys are just taking their chance to do it right now, which is still messed up, because again, in like 3 months when this is everywhere, these guys are not going to be making any money. So they're literally, I hate to say it, are just jerk offs.
Well, funnily,
Right?
funnily enough, that brings me to my next point that you've kind of segued into that nicely. How do we stop this from happening? Now, I've got a couple of ideas. Some of them might be controversial, but I'd like to know what you think about them. First of all, as they continue to release PlayStation 5s in these small batches, in these small waves, I feel like the opportunity is still going to be there for scalpers to artificially create this low supply situation. Because obviously, you know yourself, when you have low supply of something that's in high demand, you can then make money off it. You know what I mean? Plain and simple. If 2,000 PlayStation 5s had been available to the general public who had got them, that would have decreased the demand slightly. Probably not as much as it has to, but it would decrease it slightly. But by scalpers snapping up the vast majority of them, you still have a high demand ceiling. So the two things that I can think that they need to do, one is a bit less controversial, which is hold back the stock. Like literally wait until they've got 5,000-10,000 of them before they push them out. Yes, I know it's not ideal for people, but in the long run, if someone releases a wave of 10,000, there's going to come a point where scalpers are going to have to weigh up, wait, if I buy all these, I'm just going to be sitting on stock and I'm not going to make any money off them. So either they wait and they release larger batches, which yes, it's not ideal to the public, but it stops scalpers having this gold dust kind of item where they want to snap it up. The other thing is they introduce legislation to outlaw scalping. They have to bring in some sort of a legislation where people can be charged. It can be classed as a crime for doing something like this. The only issue I can foresee with that is it may have a negative impact on the collector's market, because if the legislation states that you can't take an electronic item and sell it for X amount of money over its value, how's that going to affect things like people who are selling, I don't know, PlayStation 1 consoles, you know? Sometimes those are collectible and you can maybe get a bit more money for them, but much like you said with Pokemon cards, that's a collector thing. It can sometimes go up in value. What do you think about those options, Gacha? Do you think that maybe bringing in laws to deal with scalpers or building up the supply chain, like I said, so that it's not as scarce, what do you think would work? How do you think we could tackle this?
I think you kind of nailed it with that one, man. I'm trying to think of other ideas that they could really do to kind of stop it. It's kind of hard to do that, right? Because again, a lot of these guys, it's mainly they make more accounts, right? That's primarily what scalpers do. It's like they keep making accounts over and over again, or in my personal field, that what a lot of guys do, it's just they grab a lot of different credit cards from their friends and they start and they start throwing them on accounts and start ordering like crazy. We did have an issue at my company that I currently work at, and what we did was we limit one per person. I don't know if that's how they do it in like UK stores, but here, this is for my personal job. We limit it to one person. We have like a quantity limit, and if they pass one, then every other one that they order, it's denied. Just outright, it's denied. They're like, okay, no, you ordered one today, that is it. You can't order anymore for the rest of the week. So that's what we've been doing to kind of ease that in. So we haven't had that big of an issue with ours, but I know a lot of companies don't do that. Because again, they want that money. That's another issue, right? A lot of these companies want that money then and there, and they're not willing to really put those holds, because what if nobody's actually purchasing them? While these scalpers are going to be buying them all. They're going to buy all 2,000 of these units, versus let's say they change it to one, the scalper only has 100 credit cards to use, he only gets 100 of them, and then they're sitting on 1,900. And then, of course, people are going to be buying them. But, of course, you know, we are living through a pandemic. A lot of people might not have the money. Like I could tell you, for example, in the States, a lot of people aren't getting stimulus checks. We're not getting a lot of funding. A lot of people don't have money to be buying this stuff.
I think the main difference between the UK and America then is we have something called furlough, where if you have to stop working because of COVID, the government's basically paying your salary. So that's maybe why we've got slightly more disposable income. We're not just getting like stimulus checks. If you can't work due to COVID, the government is paying 80% of your monthly salary every month, and generally your company's topping it up with 20%. So most people sitting at home right now are pretty much getting the same amount of money they would be getting if they were working. The only difference is when you've got the kids at home, your electricity costs are higher, your food costs are higher, stuff like that, you know. So your outgoings are generally higher, but income's pretty much the same. So that's why people can probably still continue to buy things the way that they did. Just to let people know, Gacha's kind of got a unique perspective in this, because he does have a 9 to 5. I won't go into what it is, but he actually gets to see a lot of these type of things firsthand because of his job. The thing is, Gacha, I know from speaking to you that a lot of this is a manual process, and when you have someone going in and manually checking orders constantly, things will obviously slip through the net. So some of these scalpers, even if they do apply a 1 per person limit, they're still going to get away with it, you know, because these guys are quite, what's the word I'm looking for here? They're quite diverse. They know what they're doing, and they've developed techniques and methods to be able to capture more of these items than they're allowed, you know.
You are correct, and then from my experience, what we do, it's we are able to track IPs, and we're able to track like devices and kind of stuff like that. So like we could see where that is being implemented at. So like let's say someone makes a different account, we'll be able to tell if it's them or not, right? Because again, technology like with like the fraud investigation has really come a far way, and that's definitely something that definitely helps. I do get what you're saying, because a lot of companies don't do this. A lot of companies just kind of, it's not as important to them, but a lot of companies do. And again, even if you're using like a VPN, we'll still be able to track that VPN in some way. Let's say like if you're like using like the same device, like if you're using the same device for a purchase, people will be able to see that.
Oh yeah, the one thing that
you know,
I'm hearing from you though is companies need to spend money to be able to
Yes,
find this.
yes, and that's the main issue.
And the
You
main
are
issue
correct.
there is they're making their bottom line. If 2,000 scalpers buy 2,000 PlayStation 5s from one company, they're still making their sales. You know, so they need to basically put in their effort and spend money to improve the customer experience. And obviously, not all companies are going to do that. I mean, companies like Amazon and that probably will, because they kind of need to protect their image. But smaller companies who maybe secure 50, 60, 70 of these PlayStations, they're not necessarily going to go to that level of effort to make sure they've went to actual paying customers. So yeah, guys, anyway, this wasn't a long video really. The idea behind this video was just to discuss the fact that for some reason in January, people are still actually scalping. What I would say is, this is very difficult. If you're someone who doesn't have a PlayStation 5, try not to feed this. The only way that we can stop people doing this, there's two ways, like I said. One, increase the level of stock, which we obviously all want to happen. But the other way is, don't buy them. Just don't buy them. If you know someone who's contemplating paying someone $700-800 for a new PlayStation, tell them not to do it. Don't let them do it. Because at the end of the day, if these people cannot offload what they have, eventually they're going to have to sell them for retail. That's the only way they're going to make their money back. So the moral of the story is, don't feed the scalpers. Would you agree with that, Gacha?
I completely agree with you, man. Completely agree. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Just wait. Just wait a couple months. PS5s will be everywhere. So just wait for that.
So
It's gonna get better.
whether it's a PlayStation 5, whether it's an Xbox Series X or an Xbox Series S that you're waiting for, everyone here at 5-9 hopes that you get the console that you're wanting very soon. We'll be bringing you a lot more content detailing games, upcoming news stories, etc. for these consoles. Keep an eye on the channel for lots of different things like Let's Plays, previews, that type of stuff. So keep your eyes on 5-9, guys, and myself, Hazink, and Gacha Talks, we will catch you on the next video. Peace.
Take care, everybody, and don't scalp. Bye.